Alright, here we go. This is my second attempt at recording audio for this video, because the first take, all I did was complain throughout the whole video, and I'm starting off by complaining in this audio about the previous take. So this is going to be my more optimistic spin on this test page. That's what I'm trying to do. I got a set of these calligraphy pens and they leaked. So if you saw me showing my fingers earlier, it's because on my hands were still stains of ink from the previous day. This is the second set, because I took those back, replaced them. I thought, I want a set of these that don't leak, and I want to play with some calligraphy pens because it's fun. They're great for mark making, and that's what this is all about. It's kind of twofold actually. One, doing a test of instruments like this, like pens. I like those videos. I watch other people when they make videos testing out pens and pencils and paintbrushes and paints. I like things like that because you get to get people's thoughts on what they work like, and you get to see it as well, because unless they're completely fabricating the footage, you get to see how they work in the video. So that's what I wanted to do in this video as well. Now, full disclosure, I bought a set of these calligraphy pens for my brother, and then I bought another set for myself because I thought if his don't work, I'll give him mine. His do work, mine leaked. So that's why I replaced them, because I thought I want a set like his that work, and then we both have a set. And because as much as I was going to give him mine if his didn't work, because his did, I thought, well, I might as well replace mine, and then I can use them and we can both talk about what does and doesn't work as a technique with them. Anyway, they're very cheap. They're £1.99 or something like that from the Range, which is just a big shop in the UK which does all kind of household stuff. You know, it does pet food things and, you know, lamps and things. It's very cheap stuff, you know, so it's not great quality. Its stationery and art sections are pretty grim, especially where I live. So there may be some stores that have better selection, but I'd rather go to other shops for my art supplies. But if I can't go further out of town, then I'll nip in there and get the odd thing or two. Some things, if it's a good make, doesn't matter where you buy it from, it'll all work. But this stuff is kind of cheaper materials, and I struggled, I'll be honest. Most of this is me just trying to get the pens working, because I was putting cartridges in every single nib to see if one of them just wasn't working and the other two did, then fine, I don't mind one of them not working. But all three of them, I just couldn't get ink to come out. Then eventually the medium nib, because it was a small, medium and large nib, and the medium one started working fine. Oh, I forgot, I was doing the whole twofold of what the video is about. So the first thing is how the nibs work, so that's what I'm starting to go into now. And then the second thing that I wanted to do as well is that for the leaky pens that I had, I did a test page, and for the test page I did a little face, and I thought that's kind of a cool little face with the squiggles. I wouldn't mind doing a better version of that with pens that don't leak, because there was more ink on my hands and fingers than there was on the paper, and it's not ideal. So that's why I thought if I get ones that don't leak, I can do this doodle page, but instead of it being A4, I'll do it as A3, so a bit bigger again, and I'll push the image into this wild space that could be kind of crazy. That was my intention, and I'm going to keep reminding myself not to moan throughout this whole video. I didn't like the previous take. I think I did it in something like 6 different pieces, sent them all, started listening to it and thought, I'm not putting this up. I'm not happy uploading any more YouTube videos with moany narratives throughout the whole thing. So it's fun to play with these kinds of nibs. As much as I'm struggling with these, the idea is that I use fine liners. They're great. They kind of taper off when you lift the pen up. It starts to go into a little tail, a tapered line. Whereas with rotary pens, they don't. They're kind of a solid line. The thickness doesn't waver. And then, you got ballpoint pens like biros. They're fun. They're kind of a bit sticky and a bit kind of, there's something slightly slimy about them, but I still like them. even though they can kind of gum up a little bit, but I still like them. They're playful pens, great for sketching, you know. And then I don't mind the felt tips, even though they do bleed quite a lot. So I'm basically trying to explore different nibs, different things to play around with. And I love fountain pens, but my fountain pen, I think it's just the ink in it dried up. There's probably a way to clean it out. I'll have to look into it, because I couldn't get my fountain pen to work. And I used to use dip pens. I really like dip pens. And dip pens, fountain pens, and these calligraphy pens, they should be kind of part of the same family. They're all similar in a way. Even though fountain pens, the nib looks the same as a dip pen, but it has like a little ball or a little lump or something at the nib, which changes how the marks look on the page. Even though it's really nice to sketch with fountain pens, dip pens have this unusual sharpness to them that's really nice, and these calligraphy pens look like the fountain pen version of a dip pen. That's why I got on from my brother, is that he's never doodled or sketched with a fountain pen before. So I thought, perfect, I'll get him one where he doesn't have to, sorry, not a fountain pen, with a dip pen. Maybe it's the other way around, maybe it is a fountain pen. The point being, I thought I'll get him these calligraphy pens. No, he's never sketched with a fountain pen, and I went out to get him a fountain pen. I couldn't find one, so I thought calligraphy pens, it's all the same sort of thing. They're a bit cheap, but there was no other option. If there were more expensive ones or a fountain pen there, I would have got him those, but that's all they had. So anyway, the idea is that it's portable. You don't have to have a little pot of ink with you to dip into it. I mean, I love dip pens, but it's, you know, it's more stuff to have. Whereas if it's just a fountain pen, you can just take the lid off, and then you're sketching. Great fun. Anyway, so that was the plan. With this, it was just that, you know, my first set leaked. The second set, I just couldn't get a consistent line. And even though it may look like it in the video, it looks like I've got them working, or one of them at least, it really wasn't. I was struggling. That's why you can kind of see me with other pens on the paper and still trying to use other things, because I thought, this is not a consistent mark. This isn't working. I need something which is actually just going to be, even if it was just one of the three nibs, just work consistently and not kind of start and stop. And then if I draw a big mark, it'd do the big mark. But then if I wanted to do loads of little hatching, I'd miss a line because it'd stop working. Or it would do part of a line and keep doing the rest of the line, so it had a gap in the middle. Sometimes it doesn't hurt. Like for this test page, who cares? It's not, you know, for a job. But if these worked really well, I'd be able to use them for illustrations and for, you know, storyboards or whatever I'm doing. But for this, it's just a test page, and I wanted to make it a big, messy, fun test page, and that's what I'm doing. Don't get me wrong, I'm not moaning about that. That is what this is. It was just a bit harder work than I wanted it to be, but that is the downside of using cheap materials. Sometimes you get what you pay for, and you may get lucky. If you find this same set and you've only got a couple of quid, you may find a set that works. And if you take them back the next day like I did, you know, you'll be able to swap it for another one. And if that doesn't work, you know, you'll be able to get a refund if you take it back the next day. I don't think they're great on refunds if you've had them for a while, so I would be, you know, kind of quick about it if you need to replace them or return them. The point being, if you want to take the risk, it might be worth it. I'm not saying don't buy these pens. I'm saying this was my experience. And not all cheap stuff is rubbish. I interview loads of artists constantly for my painting podcast called Painting Insights, and it's in fact, I'll leave a link in the description. Painting Insights podcast. It's really good, and it's all professional painters. And some of them, not all of them, but some of them will say it doesn't matter how cheap your paintbrushes or paints are. It's all paint, and you can use them. You just got to learn how they work. I don't really agree with that. I've used really bad brushes and bristles just come out of the pen of the brush, and that's no good. You don't want bristles in your paint. Kind of ruins it if you want to do a nice clean painting, but I suppose it depends what you're trying to achieve. Plus, I've used cheap paint and it has been awful. But this is me, and I'm not as skilled as these professional painters, so maybe I'm missing something which they're trying to communicate. the point which I'm trying to get to is that, you know, professional artists will say it really doesn't matter what your, you know, price range is. You can get something which will work well for you. And that's something which I'm going to have to figure out. I think I just need more practice making art. I do a lot of filming other stuff, and I do a lot of interviews and things like that. I don't do a lot of I don't do a lot of drawing or painting, and I'm going to try and change that. So that's the plan for I think it's next year, sadly, because we're in October now. I think I've got enough jobs to do this year. I've got a couple of videos that I can upload for this year, so there's this one, there's going to be another one, and there's probably going to be one more which I'll be able to upload before the end of the year. But there are things that I'm up to at the moment which are exciting, things which I've started to, you know, show progress videos, like I'm writing a script, I'm making a film. I've been mentioning this on a few different things, but anyone who hasn't heard it, I'm making a film, and I'm starting off with one scene, and I've written a script for one scene, which is 6 minutes long, so it's 6 pages. And basically that process, I recorded part of my writing process and my storyboard drawing process, and I've uploaded that to my Patreon channel. So if you're interested, check it out. Also, the filmmaking process is kind of slow at times, so I've got the writing part done for this scene and the storyboard partly done. What I need now is help from certain people to proofread it, to check it, to give me notes, you know, people with experience, because I know a couple of filmmakers. So that's what I'm waiting for, and they're busy. And then I've got actors who are only free at certain times, locations that may or may not be available. So all of it's a waiting game after I've, you know, done this bit of work that I'm happy with. In that time that I'm waiting, I have another thing that I've not been doing that I need to start. So I've started the process today. And the thing which I need to do is, I've said on my podcast that I'm going to make a book, write a book and release it for the podcast. And the reason being, I've got such an amazing network of professional painters now that I can get those to contribute to the book. It's going to be full of their knowledge because they're far more knowledgeable than I am. And I've got this great connection with all these people. It will be an amazing book. If I could get a book full of loads of professionals saying, this is a technique I think you should use, this is a story that I'll share about painting, this is some materials that I really highly recommend, this thing doesn't really work so I wouldn't do it, but you may get it to, you know, like things like that, where you can just read it and go, okay, could try that, could maybe miss that, could do, you know, whatever. That's what the podcast is full of, and I'd like to get all of that condensed into a book with loads of professional painters. So I started the process today. That's what I'm working on, and that's hopefully going to come out soon. I say come out soon. No, what am I talking about? I'm going to try and push to see how quick I can get it done, because people like to buy books for Christmas. So who knows? That might be too ambitious. It's, you know, late October. I haven't started writing yet, so that may not happen, but it might be a next year thing, who knows. I'm pushing, I'm going to try and get it done, that's the point. But as far as the filmmaking goes, that is off and rolling, that's already going. I mean, I helped someone make a short film earlier this year, and that short film was only 3 minutes long, and it took 10 hours to film. So the editing took longer than that, and you know, it's really, I find it fascinating. So if you like that kind of thing, I also did a video of that on my Patreon channel. But I mean, obviously it's not just all that film. My Patreon channel is full of drawings and things. Just to let you know, I'm getting sick of these nibs now, so this is where I quit the nibs. Okay, this is a Patreon video about automatic drawing. So if you join my Patreon, you will see this video and many others like it. That's what I'm showing you on the screen now, is a video that I made about a drawing process called automatic drawing. It explains how and why this is a useful way to make art. There are lots of different ways of making art and using different tools, different thought processes, and expressing your ideas, and this is one of them. You can join now for $2 a month and start using these techniques. It's not much to ask. I know that it's too much for some people, so I appreciate that it's not for everyone, but if you can afford it, it will really help this channel. You'll also be a patron of the arts, which sounds posh. And there's nothing quite as prestigious as a posh patron of the arts. So, if you are able to do that, then I really would appreciate it. There's also animation, exhibition, and behind the scenes videos. Loads to check out on the channel. I've been making it for quite a while, so I upload a video every month, and I'm going to start creating a tier system with different exclusive access videos. I hope to see you there soon. The link is in the description. Thanks for watching. Alright, so here we are, back from the quick advert. Check it out if you can check out the Patreon, but this is what I'm going to do. I mentioned the dip pen earlier and how I like using them. Now, I've got expensive dip pens, but from years ago I had this dip pen set, and I lost it. So I bought it again, and it's really cheap. Now, I don't know the exact price, but if you look up dip pens and you see this packaging, it's really cheap, and my memories of it are really good. It comes with this nib with another nib wrapped around it, so kind of a double plated nib, and that one, it works like a little well inside those two nibs, where if you dip it in some ink, it just sits a big pocket of ink in there to use for quite a while. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to kind of just play around with mark making without feeling like I'm hindered by this, cheap pen that's not going to work the whole time. So that was it. I parceled up the calligraphy pen sets, and I took them back and I got a refund. So that's again why I was saying earlier, you can get a refund if you go back the next day. It's fine. So I'm happy. I mean, it was cheap anyway, but I didn't want to keep hold of a set that I was never going to use. So we're on to the dip pen, and I got a little egg cup. I got some ink that I've had for God knows how long, and what ink type of ink was in there, but it's ink that is nice, deep black. If anything, it had a little skin inside, but I didn't discover that until later on, and all I needed to do was pull some of that into the egg cup and then get going, and that was it. Off and running with some mark making, hatching away, living the dream. It worked just like I remembered, where you can actually make marks, scratch it around, swirl the nib around and everything, and get loads of different scribbles and squiggles, and like I said, hatching, cross hatching, all kinds of things for quite a while before you have to dip it again. I really rate it. So for cheap materials, this is the positive half, because this works really well. But I've done so much work with that calligraphy pen set, really struggling through it, that I don't need to do a ton more. So I'm just kind of filling out certain bits, and then it was time to kind of push again into a different realm of mark making, because there's a thing that I'm trying to achieve with this image. I mean, the point is that when you look at this, it's you've got the white of the paper, so that's the light, and then all of these marks that I'm doing, and this face that I've put on there, and all of that stuff, it's obviously black ink on the white paper, but in truth it only really makes a halftone, because it's not really shadow. Now, why is it not shadow? I know that may not make sense to some of you, but the reason is that it's not fully black. It's got light in between each of those lines. It's got the white paper. That makes a half-tone shadow kind of colour. I just said it wasn't shadow. It's not black. It's kind of a grey. So that's what I call mid-tone, actually. So I've got the light of the paper and I've got the mid-tone of the hatching. But what I really need now is to get the shadow in there. And the shadow in the dark section is what I'm going to be able to get with this ink. So I'm just chucking the ink on it, just tip it on there, because it's a test page anyway, and now that it's got all this movement in there, this kind of explosion that's happening on the surface, the plan is to try and get that with some shadow, some nice pockets of black in there, some puddles, some more depth into it. And I use a series of different ideas where I'm obviously just dashing the leftover ink onto there, which are big drips, but by the time I get my nib down into there, it's already dried, and what happens is wet ink soaks into the paper, sharp nib scratches through, and it just lifts up the paper. So I had this fuzzy black ball on the end of the nib, which is just the paper that's fluffing up and becoming scratched. So that wasn't working. So what I tried to do instead was to push it around using a paper napkin, a little serviette. cheap one. It's all about the cheap materials in this video. I'm telling you, you can make images with all kinds of cheap materials. It depends how clean you want your image to be, because this is obviously anything but clean, and still I think it has that quality of something really happening in the environment, some real atmosphere swirling around and building up, and that's what I quite like about it. So I use the paper napkin to push around some of the ink before it dries, and I have to keep tipping some of it on there to try and keep that wet ink on the surface. But then when I tap out as much ink as I can from the little tub, that's when I see this kind of weird blob thing come out, and I don't know what it is. If anything, it reminds me of a bottom feeder I've got in my fish tank here. But what it was the skin of ink that's been left for years, and I'm talking maybe 6 years. It's been in this tub untouched, sealed, and it's just dried up. So I've got this wet sheet of skin, of ink skin, on the page. So that works really well. I tried to pick it up with the serviette, push that around a little bit, so you've got really nice passes of very dark black marks, really thick and interesting lines that couldn't be predicted. There's nothing that I can do to make that what it is without it being this natural mark making that it offers you. So there we are, that's what I'm trying to do. And then once I put that back in the tub, I see that I've got a lot of the black there, so then I just use the serviette to dab away at the surface. Again, it's just trying to get the more organic marks, something which I could make with a nib, but it would take a lot of planning and design work. Whereas if you just use natural materials and things that are scrunched up, it can, not always, but it can look really nice. So that's kind of what I was trying to achieve here, and I enjoy it. It's now giving this image a lot of that quality that was lacking when it was just the line work. You may disagree, and if you do, you let me know. But for me, having the black and then the white, and then these marks, these lines, these kind of hatch lines everywhere, that's what gives it that contrast that I quite enjoy with this type of scribbly squiggly doodle. So that's the test page. Lots of cheap and cheerful materials. I recommend trying it out for yourself. If you struggle to think about how to compose a drawing or what to draw, this is just inspiration. It could just be the first step, but have fun, play, try it out for yourself. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.